Hello, this is Charles Scoville, Golden Harvest agronomist with your Agronomy in Action Focus Friday. Been another busy week traveling across the state of Michigan, looking at crops, and got four things I want to talk with you about that seem to be most common right now. And the first is going to be about tar spot. It's now been found in the state of Michigan. So what are we going to do next? Second item is on corn rootworm beetles. It's almost been epic, the number of beetles I've seen so far. Let's talk about what that really means for us. Also, again, lots more yellow soybeans showing up. Been digging some of those, want to share with you what we're finding. And finally, Greensnap in corn in Michigan, something we hardly ever talk about, but some interesting conversation this week. So let's jump right into it. And had a great chance to listen to a webinar this morning by Dr. Martin Chilvers of Michigan State University. And with tar spot being found this week down in southeast Michigan in Monroe County, it has really brought that conversation to a head. And so if you look at the Tar Spotter app, back on July the 12th, when we got those big rains, that actually put a good part of the state of Michigan in the high-risk category for getting infections in tar spot. And we know that it takes about 8 hours of leaf wetness and kind of those cooler, maybe mid-60s type temperatures. And we've had that throughout the night and evenings here to potentially set us up for what could be a big infection this year. It always still goes back, though, in my mind, to the disease triangle, right? So do we have a susceptible host, the first line of that triangle? And we know, genetically speaking, some hybrids are more tolerant than others to the tar spot fungus out there. Nothing is resistant, but there are huge differences in genetics. So we can happy to be talking to you about, when you get a chance, the difference in those hybrids. The second line of that disease triangle is the disease present? And we know in Michigan it is present everywhere, whether that is in your field because you had corn there last year or it's blown in from the neighboring fields. It's certainly possible and present in all of Michigan at this point in time. The third leg of that triangle is having a conducive environment, and we just spoke about that a second ago. The environment right now is way too conducive for that disease. So what we need to be doing is probably middle of next week, certainly getting a little more busy in scouting. That'll be about 2 weeks after the 12th of July, and they're saying 2 to 3 weeks is about the infection period that it takes, and so we're right around that corner here next. As far as spraying, with fungicides out there, still R1 applications are, the green silk timing tends to be historically the best time to put fungicide on corn, but there's been a lot of studies on multiple applications, and we know that a lot of the fungicides are, the good ones anyways, with multiple modes of actions out there are, good to get us 2 to 3 weeks of work out there in the corn. And so we want to not necessarily spray too early, but timing is critical to managing this very, very deadly disease out there we've seen, especially 2 years ago in our corn. Second thing, getting a couple calls and seeing them myself, actually, corn rootworm beetles. So we're seeing the adults hatching right now and flying around the cornfields. And we were doing a field day up in St. John's, a rotated corn after soybean field, and I put a trap out just for kicks and giggles, and shoot, within an hour's time, I already had 3 beetles on the trap. We know that if we get 35 or more in a week's time, we're considering high-level pressure. And so they're flying around. They may not have been hatched from that field, but they're certainly moving to cornfields now. Had another call in south central Michigan today. The farmer said he was out spraying his corn and putting some late season nitrogen out there. And the radiator on his spray rig was just packed full of corn rootworm beetles. So keep an eye out there. The question I got from him was, well, shouldn't the corn rootworm traits take care of that? And, we need to understand that corn rootworm traits are there to control the larvae, the worms in the soil, not the adults flying around now. And so, if we get those adults to a level where we start silking on that corn and they start feeding on those silks and they keep it uh, basically eaten down to less than a half an inch of silk out of that ear, then economically it is absolutely worth spraying those off, doing a little what they call beetle bombing on those fields. Certainly can't control them all because there is such a long period of hatch. But also, let's not go out there now and spray because there's going to be more hatching, and we want to time that so to protect those silks if we are considering an insecticide for taking care of corn rootworm adult beetles. But as far as next year, if we're seeing those beetles in our corn today, understand when they end their life cycle, they're going to drop down in the soil, they're going to lay their eggs, and those eggs aren't moving. And whatever you put in there, if you put corn roots and corn seed in that soil, the potential of feeding to occur is high. And so thinking about traits, thinking about soil-applied insecticides, if you have fields that have attracted a lot of beetles this year, make sure you're prepared for next year's crop if that's going back into corn. Third item today is wanted to talk about yellow soybeans, and with the amount of rain we've gotten, actually was out digging some plants in some of those low areas and getting my knife out, cutting open the nodules, and where we would like to normally see that kind of pinkish color inside there, they were black and dead. So these beans were turning light green. There was no nitrogen going to be produced by this plant anymore. And, that's a challenge. Unless we can get those low areas drained out. And even if we do get them drained out, we may even want to try considering a rescue treatment of some, spread urea or something out there. We know that soybeans actually take 4 to 5 times more nitrogen per bushel of expected yield than corn does. And so if they can't produce themselves, and we think that crop still has a chance of making it, the roots are still in decent condition, getting some nitrogen out there, not foliarly, we can't put enough of it out that way, but getting some on the ground and trying to uptake that very well may be a management consideration to look at on those yellow beans. Also seeing a little bit of sudden death syndrome starting to show up. And, of course, we know that we get that bright green veins, and it's yellow to brown dead between the veins on those leaves. Normally that is also attached with the soybean cyst nematodes because they will, every 21 days, they feed on that root. They die off and they leave holes in those roots. And if there's fusarium in the soil, that fusarium enters up into the root of that soybean plant and can cause that sudden death syndrome symptomology. So whether we get a good seed treatment on there ahead of time or whether we pick varieties that have sudden death tolerance, not going to do anything for it this year, but managing next year and understanding too the difference between that and brown stem rot, because brown stem rot has the exact same foliar symptomology with that green vein and that death between the veins. But when you split open that stem, that center vein, which would normally be white, is dark brown in brown stem rot, but does remain white in sudden death syndrome. So we can identify those two, but again, need to split that stem to make that happen. And then, of course, on the muck, high pH soils, we're still seeing manganese deficiency out there. Even those that have applied a couple of weeks ago, in some cases are having to come back and reapply more foliar manganese because those plants just can't get it out of the soil. So we have to put it on in a foliar manner. The last item today is on Greensnap. So we've had some nasty weather. We've had some hail damage. I was walking some hail damage in southeast Michigan earlier this week, and we've got bruised corn stalks. We've got broken off corn stalks that from the high winds did Greensnap a little bit, as well as just knocked over from the hailstones coming through there. But what I thought was really kind of interesting was we went to another field that hadn't gotten any hail. He says, "Yeah, I've got some Greensnap out here too." And I walked to the edge of the field, and there was dead corn leaves laying there on the edge of the field. And I said to the farmer, well, it looks like you got some deer damage here too. He said, no, that's the Greensnap. I said, no, look, you pull those out and you look at them, the leaves are on the ground there. It's just the center whorl, and you look where it was pulled out, it's kind of jagged on the bottom. And we didn't have any Greensnap there. We did have plenty of deer damage, and that's been a continuous and larger problem with a lot of our fields out here. But again, we just rarely see Greensnap in Michigan unless we've got hail or other really large straight line type winds, which is one nice thing we don't have to worry about here in Michigan. And so with that, looking for another good week of heat and growing conditions for next week, trying to catch back up on our heat unit accumulation, and should be another great week. So if you have any questions, as always, give me a call, and I'm happy to talk through those. Hope you have a great week and weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next week on the Agronomy in Action Focus Friday. This is Charles Scoville, your Golden Harvest agronomist. Have a great week.